Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, if you do enjoy the video that you came here to watch, do me a favor, go ahead and hit that little red subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. It really does help my audience grow. It really does help this channel grow. It means more than you realize. So go ahead, hit that little red button. Also, remember, full episodes of the Aaron Torres Podcast, wherever you download your podcast, Apple, Spotify, etc. Now, here is the video that you came here for.
We want to switch gears to the other big result. Really, there were two other big results in the college football playoff picture outside of Alabama, LSU. We'll get to Georgia, Tennessee in a second, but I do want to start with Clemson, Notre Dame. Clemson goes to cold, chilly South Bend, Indiana as a 3.5-point favorite, undefeated, number 4 in the country, and with an inside track to a college football playoff berth. And they walk out with a 35-14 loss that was an absolute butt kicking. This game was not as close as the final score indicated. Notre Dame was actually up 28-0 in this game before Clemson tacks on a few scores late and walks out with their first loss of the year. And I do want to break this down. I do want to talk about this game from all angles. And I do think there's more than one way to look at this. One, I heard a lot of this, well, Clemson's playoff hopes are absolutely gone. Well, no, they're not. And we'll get to that in a second. But to me, more importantly, I do think it really speaks to a conversation that we've really had throughout this podcast throughout the last few years. And I think we're going to have going forward starting today. What is this Clemson program going forward? And will we ever see them get back to the level that they were once at? And I know it feels grand and overwhelming and all this and all that. I do think it's a fair conversation to have on a day like today. And when I look at, to go back to Saturday, when I look at this game, there are two really concerning things that stand out to me about this loss for Clemson. One, really since Trevor Lawrence left 2 years ago, last season and this season, when Clemson has struggled, there's really been one thing that you could point to as the reason why Clemson struggled and the reason that they were even competitive to begin with. It was almost always the quarterback play and almost always the defense kept them in the games. And DJ Uiagalelei simply did not do enough at the quarterback position. Well, DJ was not great on Saturday. Let's make one thing clear. Under 200 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Again, that touchdown obviously came late. But they lost in all phases of the game. And I think most importantly, their defense really let them down. Now, the pass defense really had not been good for big chunks of this season. We saw it against Wake Forest earlier in the year. But at the same time, you could count on the run defense. I remember there was 2 weeks in a row. I think they played Boston College and NC State maybe, where they gave up like a combined 85 yards rushing. Well, that wasn't the case on Saturday night where they got their butt kicked at the line of scrimmage. Notre Dame, this is incredible. 47 rush attempts for 253 yards rushing. And so you look at that. Let me read that again. 47 rush attempts, 263 yards rushing, We are talking about 5.5 yards per carry. We're talking about 5.5 yards per carry on almost 50 rush attempts. That is absolutely insane. And it speaks to how bad this run defense was, which was a strength, but it's now worth noting this is the second time in about a month where the run defense has let them down. They struggled against Florida State, were able to get out of that game with a win. But this is the second time in a couple weeks that the run defense has let them down. The pass defense hasn't been good for most of the season. More importantly, just because you can't blame all of the problems on Saturday night at Notre Dame on the quarterback position, the quarterback position is maybe less stable and it's as confusing as it's really been at any point in each of the last 2 years. And it really goes back to, if you remember, 2 weeks ago, Cade Klubnik is the backup. He was the number 1 rated high school player in America. And he came in late in that game against Syracuse before the bye week and led that team to victory. Now, he only threw 4 passes, but the offense was clearly different with him on the field. They played with more confidence. They scored a bunch of points. They win going away. Still, after that game, Dabo was quick to say, DJ's my guy. There is no quarterback controversy. I have my starting quarterback. Well, what did Dabo do on Saturday? He played DJ as he said he would. DJ struggled, under 200 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And then when he struggled, what did Dabo do? He went back to Cade Klubnik, who proceeded to throw one pass, have it intercepted, and then Dabo took Cade Klubnik, the backup, out after one pass and put DJ back in. Surprise, surprise, neither worked. The offense stunk. And I'll say this. You talk about a quarterback controversy. I think you have a quarterback headache now because you've mismanaged this so much that I don't know how either quarterback can have confidence right now. DJ's got to be looking over his shoulder. And then Cade Klubnik's probably sitting there saying, can I get a fair shake at this? Like, if you think I'm the guy, then let me prove it. But you can't keep going back and forth and back and forth. And so when I look at the bigger picture with Clemson, defense struggles, quarterback situation's a mess. It does lead me to a few things. Now, one thing I do want to be clear on right now, this second, we got to stop with the Clemson's eliminated from the playoff talk. No, they're not. In the history of the college football playoff, which started in 2014, we talked about this a few weeks ago. There is a grand total of one team that was a Power 5 conference champion that did not go to the college football playoff with 1 or 0 losses. It was Ohio State in 2018, and that was only because Notre Dame, Clemson, Alabama, and Oklahoma all finished with 0 or 1 losses, and Ohio State had the worst resume out of all of them and the worst loss out of the teams with a loss. So don't tell me that Clemson is eliminated from the playoff berth. If they run the table, they are going to, at the worst, be in the conversation and at the best be in. Now, they could use help like everybody else. They could use Tennessee somehow tripping up from here, eliminating a second team from the SEC. They could have Georgia winning out would probably help them, eliminating anybody else from the SEC, although I don't think there's anybody from the West at this point that can get in. They could have TCU lose would help them. The point is they help. They could get help, but it's not necessary. But I also do think we also have to ask a fair question. They're not eliminated, but what makes us think that they're going to actually run the table? They're playing a Louisville team next week, and people laugh at Louisville. Scott Satterfield, they've won 4 games in a row, Louisville has. Louisville 6-3 and has won 4 games in a row, including beating a couple good teams, Wake Forest, Pitt. James Madison's actually a pretty decent team. That Louisville team is no pushover. Clemson still has South Carolina. And if Clemson gets to the ACC championship game, they are going to have a tough test against a good North Carolina team who is running away with the other side of the ACC. So their playoff hopes aren't done. But I see probably another loss on this schedule, just like with Alabama. Alabama could still get into the SEC championship game. They need help just to get there. But what makes us think, what are we so certain that Alabama is going to crush Ole Miss next week? I don't see it. I don't know. And it's the same with Clemson. I do think, though, in the bigger picture, I got to be real. A lot of the conversations that we had about Clemson in the offseason coming into the year are coming to fruition. And I'll just be blunt. I'm worried about where they are. But more importantly, I'm worried about where they are going as a program. And again, I know it seems totally dramatic and this and that and the other thing. Well, here's my problem with this. Clemson forever has been a team built on really 3 things: having elite quarterback play, having elite defensive play, and playing in a pretty soft ACC. And Clemson, and I've talked to people around that program, people that cover that program, Clemson for years, they basically used the ACC regular season to work out the kinks to get themselves ready for the playoff. Well, over the last year or so, we've seen what Clemson looks like without an elite quarterback. They've been okay, really good, beat a lot of bad teams, but they are not great, and they are not a championship contender. They weren't last year when they lost 3 games in the regular season. And I think even this year, I think most of us knew that they might get to the playoff, but they're not going to win any games once they get there. The saving grace, though, I think for most of us or people that care about Clemson, I do think there was a situation where we sat there and said, yeah, it's not pretty now, but wait until Cade Klubnik becomes quarterback. Well, unless Dabo has completely changed who he is and how he runs his program over the last year or so, I have to wonder if Cade Klubnik's the guy. And let me tell you why. Because Dabo Swinney has had 2 elite first-round NFL caliber quarterbacks in his time at Clemson. Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. You probably heard of both of them. Deshaun Watson was starting by the middle of his freshman year, got hurt, didn't play, but was named the starter. Like, he at some point had established himself as by far the best quarterback, and Dabo just said, I'm pulling off the Band-Aid. I don't care. You're the best guy. You give us the best chance to win. I'm putting you in. Same thing with Trevor Lawrence in 2018. Famously, Kelly Bryant started a bunch of games. Trevor Lawrence comes out, Kelly Bryant quits the team. Everybody freaks out. Should he have not have? But the point was, Dabo said, I have seen what Kelly Bryant can do for me, and Trevor Lawrence gets me to another level. And so my concern if I'm a Clemson fan, my concern if I'm an ACC fan, my concern if I care about Clemson football in any way, if Cade Klubnik was that guy, wouldn't Dabo have made the move and handed over the keys and said, you're my guy, go win us ball games? He's done it twice before, and I would think that he would do it again if Klubnik is the guy. But then more importantly, my other thought is this. This was supposed to be the bridge year. Like, we all understood DJ's probably not it. And Klubnik is it, and we're going to see it on full display in 2023. Here's the bigger problem. The defense was supposed to be so good that it really didn't matter. And the defense was supposed to be so good that it could carry them to a potential playoff, even if the quarterback play wasn't great. Well, we saw that defense on Saturday, and it wasn't very good. And it really, as I said, was really the third time that the defense looked kind of meh. Looked really meh against the pass against Wake Forest, looked kind of meh against Florida State in the run game, and looked really bad on Saturday night against Notre Dame. And so now, again, the question becomes, if you don't have elite quarterback play, and there might not be one in the program, and two, if you don't have elite defensive play, then what are you as a program? And what you are as a program at Clemson, where you recruit at such a high level, you're probably still really good. You're probably still going to win a ton of games in the ACC. You're probably realistically going to win 9, 10, 11 games every year, maybe make a playoff every once in a while. But Dabo has set the standard. The standard is national championships. Maybe not every year, but we have a team good enough to get to the playoff, and probably every 2 to 3 years, we have a team good enough to win it, if not more. And so I bring it up because I think this Clemson program is at a fascinating crossroads, and I don't know what this program looks like going forward. Now, I don't even know what it looks like going into next week. I think at this point, you rip the Band-Aid off, you go with Cade Klubnik. We all knew DJ was supposed to be a 3-and-done. We all knew Klubnik was the guy for 2023. But again, if I truly believe if Dabo thought he was the guy, he would have gone to him by now. And the fact that he hasn't, maybe that says something. But fascinating situation at Clemson. Again, keep in mind, they don't control their own destiny for a playoff berth. But if they win out, they're going to be in good shape. The question is, can they win out? Again, Louisville's a good team. North Carolina is a really good team. South Carolina is a good team. I'd keep this in mind too in the back of your head. A couple of their nice wins don't look so good anymore. Wake Forest suffered its third loss of the season on Saturday, second straight loss. On top of that, there was another loss as well that did not look good. So when I look at Clemson, you know, those big early season wins, again, Wake Forest doesn't look as good. Syracuse lost again, does not look as good. And then at the same time, what is the state of this program? Can they turn around not only this year, but in the bigger picture?